Hello and welcome back to the Troutman Pepper Battery and Storage Podcast. I am your host, Bill Derasmo. As we cruise through the summer of 2024, I would note at the outset that battery storage has played an important role in keeping the lights on as various regions here in the U.S. have experienced record heat waves. I hope you're staying cool wherever you are listening to this program. Turning to the present, with me today is Julia Souder. Julia is the Chief Executive Officer of the Long Duration Energy Storage Council. Welcome to the program, Julia.
Thank you, Bill. It's great to be here.
Great to have you on today. You've been with the Long Duration Energy Storage Council for looks like about 2.5 years, and you also simultaneously hold a few other interesting positions, such as serving as the chair of the Global Renewables Alliance, serving on the board of the Keystone Policy Center, the founder and president of JAS Energies LLC, and finally, this is an interesting one, you were also a Truman political partner with the Truman National Security Project. I was intrigued by that one. But why don't I give you a chance to introduce yourself and let us know how your very interesting career and background has led you to become a leader regarding long-duration energy storage.
Oh, thanks, Bill. Again, it's great to be here and look forward to the dialogue today. And as you're pointing out in your earlier remarks, just these ongoing temperature changes that we're feeling around the world really just put it all in perspective that each one of our communities are being affected by the changes and the intensity of the climate changes and what's happening. And that's really kind of been on the forefront of why I really wanted to jump in and have the passion for working in long duration storage, is that it's one of the key tools on this path to decarbonize, to make sure that we don't keep raising the temperatures and just really kind of all these constant changes that are happening in our community. So as you point out, wearing these different hats throughout my career has been kind of a fun roller coaster ride, and really have enjoyed working in the regulatory realm and the policy creating realm and the developer realm, and being an entrepreneur, really seeing from all different angles how critical storage is to decarbonization, and really grateful for the different hats that I've worn to help kind of lay out the pathway of why we need to work together in a collaborative way, sharing global insights, working in local communities, and forming partnerships to address the urgency at hand. So, it's great to be part of the LDES Council, working with members around the globe, working over 20 countries with an ecosystem that looks at incorporating members as utilities, as technology developers, as owners and operators, as equipment manufacturers, as financiers, again, really supporting the path to decarbonization. And having partners to work on different types of LDES really does make the job really enjoyable to be part of, how do we create new policies and markets to bring in the diversity of what LDES can offer to various communities.
Well, why don't we just start with the basics for our audience? When we talk about long duration energy storage, and previous programs have talked about this some, but what specifically are we talking about when we talk about long duration storage?
We're talking about 8-hour plus, and we're looking at intraday, weekly, monthly, and seasonal. So you're looking at really making sure that you can have the duration of clean energy, renewable energy during those ups and downs, those gaps when you don't have the wind blowing or the sun shining. And so we give you that flexibility that we need in these new energy systems all over the world to address the variability of renewable energy. So long duration storage, again, provides that flexibility of 8 hours, if you want to make sure that you're kind of getting those load peak times and having that reliability of 24/7 service. And so long duration storage can provide this 8 hours plus. It can provide this for days, weeks, and months, and even seasons. We can take the sun in the winter or summer, depending on where you are in the globe, and using it as heat and power in the winter. And so, again, having that flexibility is so important to the role of long duration storage.
Well, and in particular here in the United States, I know California has really leaned in, as they say, to long duration. Maybe you could just talk for a minute about some of the initiatives in California and the role that long duration storage has played. And looking into the future, it seems like it's going to be a really important part of the puzzle in California, and maybe the West at large.
Great point. And definitely California's leadership on really demonstrating the role of storage is so important. And in particular, it was the first state in the United States actually first place in the world to call out long duration storage as a needed component to address grid reliability. And the California Public Utilities Commission announced a couple of years ago that it wanted a 1 gigawatt of long duration storage. So it's 1,000 megawatts of LDES by 2030. And then has been working on kind of what that looks like by 2026, 2028, and how the procurement has really helped push forward the utilities in the state to look at diverse tools and mechanisms to bring on long duration storage. And at first, there was a lot of lithium ion, which has been great to see that, they've got short duration being covered, over 10,000 megawatts. This is pretty impressive on the system today. But what California is realizing, as many other markets around the country and the world, is that we need more than just 4 hours of storage. We need to have 8, 12, 2,400. And we need to bring on more policies to help create this. So there's been a lot of debate. And I know a lot of lawyers and regulators utilities have scars over the resource adequacy discussion. But this is really important because you want to make sure that you have the resources there to meet the needs of your customers and the communities, make sure that the lights stay on and that the power and the heat that you need to have your local needs met is always there. And so there's been a lot of policy discussions over how to update resource adequacy to make sure that there are the right tools for long-duration storage and new market changes. And the California Independent System Operator has done a great job of outlining the role of storage in the marketplace and trying to look at new creative ways to bring in more opportunities for credits and access for long duration, in particular ancillary services. There in a lot of markets today, long duration storage is not given credit for black start, frequency response, even an inertia. And so how do we bring in these additional capabilities of long duration storage from the diverse technologies into the marketplace? And what does that look like for thermal energy storage, for compressed air, for electrochemicals, all the different types of batteries, in addition to lithium ion, whether it's iron, vanadium, zinc, and a lot of organic composites. And then, what does this look like for other types of mechanical, pumped hydro, different types of liquid air? And so that diversity of storage resources really needs diversity of market access points. And so it's great to see California, continue to have discussions on this. And now we look forward to, continue to see the mandates be increased to bring more long-duration storage into the marketplace.
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of the different technologies or battery chemistries like vanadium, zinc, iron oxide, just to name a few. And we've talked about those on prior programs. And so when we talk about long duration, one of the things that's exciting to me, and lithium ion is great. We're big fans of lithium ion. And we've had a lot of guests on talk about different variations of lithium ion, and certainly 2-hour, 4-hour battery storage is great too. And it can play a very important role, and it's coming online very quickly, scaling up very quickly. But when we talk about long duration, I get excited because you get a diversity of battery chemistries and different materials that can be used. And maybe you could just talk for a minute about that on your group, your LDES council. What are some of the different battery chemistries, technologies that folks are working with?
Sure. Bill, also you mentioned, how important lithium ion is. We have some members that do lithium ion too and look at the 8-hour plus. And, there is kind of a trade-off of costs. But again, we need to have many types of storage and many types of the diversity of long duration storage. And what we really like to show is that within long duration, there are 4 families that can give you the 8 hours. So you've got the thermal, which you're looking at whether it's like sensible heat, latent heat, thermochemical, which shows, are you going solid to liquid? Are you doing, heats? Are you kind of looking at, whether it's steam? There's a lot of different options. And really this group also really works with the hard to abate sectors. So looking at industry, agriculture, chemical, mining, even transportation. How can we bring on green heat, green steam that can really be part of long duration storage and kind of use existing assets too? And so it's really important to kind of look at also emissions reductions and round trip efficiency. There's a lot of great information on our website about our different reports. And then we have a report on net zero heat that kind of dives into this a bit more, the different technologies that exist. And then on electrochemical, we mentioned the different types of flow batteries, metal anode batteries. We've got different types of non-metal chemical storage with whether it's electrolyzers and hydrogen or whether it's carbon. There again, it's a really kind of impressive group of different types of options, even within vanadium, the different types of groups that work in this. So having that diversity of very environmentally safe, accessible minerals, even kind of looking at the ESG, environmental, social justice, social governance, sustainability aspects of circularity and recyclability. Looking at taking the, scraps from other metals and repurposing it, and that's a big part of our work too. And mechanical, we like to kind of comment on the kind of grandparents of long-term storage of pumped hydro. Being around for over 100 years and compressed air over 20. Really bringing those shared lessons learned about marketplaces and just attributes of how to build in planning, permitting, siting, and other contributions to market feasibility, looking at what's happening with closed loop pumped hydro, gravity-based new innovations on technologies, compressed air, looking at, like I mentioned, liquid air, liquid carbon, and there's lots of different types of new turbines that are being introduced. So we've got a nice kind of diversity within our group to looking at different types of mechanical storage. And then chemical, looking at hydrogen, ammonia, looking at different ways to, again, kind of push forward that whole ecosystem of power, heat, and hydrogen, and that diversity that's so important. But again, this demonstrates how long-duration storage really does touch the different pathways to decarbonize in every single industry that's out there.
Well, shout out to Pump Storage Hydro, the OG of storage. I've practiced in this area for a long time, and I know from experience that some of the pump storage hydro facilities around the country are just so critical and so important to reliable operation of the grid. The Blenheim-Gilboa project in New York State, the pump storage project, Ludington, and those one I was trying to think of in Michigan. Two great examples, ones that I'm familiar with, and there are plenty of others. But yeah, no, pump storage, hydro, compressed air, those are technologies we don't talk as much about anymore, but still very important. And on the long duration piece, yeah, they're really the ones that set the standard. And just think of, in terms of long duration storage, one thing I was thinking about was the Winter Storm Elliott experience in PJM, and it caused a lot of heartache, I think, for FERC and NERC and PJM and the people in the region. One of the things I was thinking about was pump storage hydro, and it was a really interesting dilemma, I think, for the PJM operators, where it was a multi-day or evening event. It wasn't just a quick thing that happened and then it passed. And so they really had this dilemma on whether they refilled the reservoirs at night and that pumped at night to refill the reservoirs, which would have taken more energy, but the temperatures had really plunged overnight. So it created this real problem. But I think one of the things I was thinking about as you're talking about the different technologies is that if you have different forms of long duration energy storage, then maybe that could ameliorate for that type of problem, right?
Definitely.
So if you had a vanadium, for instance, based long duration storage, then you might have been able to pump at night to refill those reservoirs and not worried about it because you would have had another source of energy, just as an example. And so it speaks to the importance, I think, continued importance of energy diversity. And in this case, the diversity of the different storage technologies. And there are probably other reasons for that too, like supply chain and in terms of development. It makes it easier if we're not just all trying to get lithium ion online. But in any event, if you were talking to other regions around the country besides, say, California, who's kind of been a leader on this, what would your pitch be to them to say, look, or different states or whoever's in charge of resource procurement, what would your pitch be to say, look, you guys don't have any long duration storage on the system, or you don't have much, or whatever it is, but you really should take a look at doing something along the lines of what California has done to beef up that part of your portfolio?
Say three things. And one, I'd say there's already been some great work by other states in the U.S. too. In New York has mentioned updates to their long duration storage procurement and their, kind of public-private partnerships. So one, I'd say is mandates work. They really do help push the marketplace and really do validate the need and really bring in diverse projects so that you can meet different needs of your portfolio. So having specific long duration storage target mandates is one. Two, that public-private partnership is three. This is a good point. It's really important California has also done a lot of great work of helping with pilots in the last decade, and then now bringing in scaling opportunities to really kind of start really commercializing to then bring even lower costs and more benefits to customers. So that's really helpful. And then also looking at the third point is how to build out that public-private partnership with, for example, federal government. So entities like the U.S. Department of Energy with their loan guarantee program has really provided a lot of assistance. But in addition, through the various grants and other projects, we've seen 10 of our member companies get a lot of great partnerships with utilities and different partners around the country to work on, whether it's pumped hydro in Kentucky, whether it's thermal energy storage in Alaska, whether it's gravity-based in the Midwest. There's just been a lot of great opportunities for projects to really kind of come online and really demonstrate the value add. Because what I think one myth to kind of demystify is that long duration storage is out there. Not only pumped hydro and compressed air, but there are a lot of companies that have had projects out for over a decade. What we need to show is that these projects are smaller, they need to scale, and they need to become much more commercial. So again, having those mandates are so important, having those public-private partnerships, and then having the right market criteria and access. A lot of the modeling and data out there needs to be updated because you're not even capturing the benefits or the variety of scenarios to address those multi-day events that you can have in every state around the country. It really needs that, again, the kind of mandates, public-private partnerships, the modeling, market access, so that you really can bring on the benefits of LDES. And again, whether it's the duck curve in California, whether it's a dragon or a camel, everyone's starting to have these different kind of issues to address the marketplace, and having a clear market promoting the different benefits of longitudinal storage and different access points for different entry of 8-hour, 2400 is really critical.
Well, that's a good point about the different market structures and market products. So in the short term, you might talk about more regions adopting ramping type projects. And then for the long term, you might have to think creatively, but that's really an important issue, because that's when we get into the extreme weather, it seems like we're getting into more of these multi-day events. We saw it, Winter Storm Elliott was an example I mentioned earlier. There was Winter Storm Uri, of course, before that. And then on the summer, look, it's just this summer that you can speak to. Now,
Right.
the regions have done a great job of getting through it. And, hats off to the folks in the ISO control rooms around the country and PJM's control room in New York, et cetera. They've done a great job. But you keep talking about how we're getting tighter and tighter with our reserve margins and looming needs that are on the horizon. And with these multi-day type events, whether they're extreme cold or extreme heat, that's what starts to really make me nervous, because a lot of the storage that has come online, like I said, it's great, big fan, 2-hour, 4-hour batteries, but we got to start getting into the longer duration technologies, because these weather events don't tend to be 2-hour and 4-hour events.
Right. The close calls that you're pointing to are more than we know about. And my days at NERC and working, back in DC with all the entities, it's like the operators do a phenomenal job, but we're really confiding them more and more. And we really need to kind of show that it's not just an N-1 or N-2. The N-10 events that we thought were every 20 years are now, every year. And so we have to change the scenarios and the modeling that we're doing to really kind of update this and change the policies to address this urgency. Customers are only going to take so much more, whether it's power shutoffs announcements or alerts or, requests for conserving. We all like to chip in and do that, but after 3 or 4 days, it gets harder and harder on families and communities.
Absolutely.
So we need to have more LDES in there, to help kind of buffer the effects and provide more reliability.
Well, one thing I wanted to touch on, and maybe this is shifting gears a little bit, but in your background, I see a linkage between energy security and national security, national defense. And so I was wondering if you could speak to that. Not necessarily, well, it could be a long duration energy storage topic, but it's a broader topic, I think. And I just saw it in your background when I was prepping for this interview. It hit me, it piqued my interest. So I was wondering if you could just talk about that for a little bit.
Bill, you did some good digging. You found the work on cybersecurity standards. That's awesome. No, when we had those close calls, it was kind of a wake up call to really understand the synergies of not only the water and energy nexus, but the energy and gas nexus, and how we communicate and how to kind of work on security there. And then that also brought in just kind of the new awareness of being with our SCADA systems, EMS, and just all the different ways that operators and grids were communicating with each other. How important it was to have protection and just really kind of do a lot of updates to understanding the security of data centers and security of just data itself that the grid operators were in charge of and how to protect them. And then really kind of moving into just back to the days of working on the 2003 blackout investigation. Communication failures were such a big issue of one of the 3 faults, and really showing how important as we evolve in our communications, and even with artificial intelligence, how central it is to have the right types of security measures, which then brings in the role of the U.S. Department of Defense and just the military, and just how it's been on the forefront in many ways to kind of protect its assets, and how to look at the costs of fossil fuels, and how even getting access to fossil fuels in many of the communities is very difficult. And so looking at different options. And over a decade ago, they started looking at different roles for military bases to bring on longer sharing storage, because they needed to have something accessible, and also kind of continue to help push forward some of the research that was very innovative back then. And now many of those projects have been commercialized and kind of out in the marketplace. So it is great to have the support and just kind of the awareness of how long duration energy storage is such a critical component to addressing security needs. Many islands actually around the world are using backup diesel generators for whether it's hotels or many other elements of local community needs. And that's very expensive. And today, many of these facilities are being replaced with long duration energy storage to provide that security. Just because it's just relying on fossil fuels and the geopolitical aspects adds a whole other layer of cost.
Well, it's really interesting to hear. The other one I was thinking of was your work with the Truman Foundation. And so Truman National Security Project, excuse me, if you could just speak to that work as well.
It's a great organization based in DC, and it really focuses on bringing together experts in diplomacy and security and public policy. So you're looking at kind of three groups coming together to share insights to address national security through diplomacy, building on Truman's principles from after World War II, the Marshall Plan, and really kind of creating how can we build diplomacy, looking at security and bringing in energy as a key component of, could be a tool of partnership. And so we bring together groups who work on existing military policies today, existing insights for whether it's security, whether it's financing, just how to kind of bring together different perspectives of the different silos to come together and kind of share insights and opportunities to kind of each help each other push whether it's the agency's goals, address different missions, but again, have that partnership with industry and public agencies to, again, share the most latest information, expertise, and really just build on those partnerships. So it's a fantastic organization to learn from each other and really push forward on those principles of the Truman Doctrine using diplomacy first.
Oh, it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's a great group that works really hard and really brings together a lot of great individuals from around the country. So it's wonderful to have really true experts in certain areas, and then people who are really interested in policy, and then those who are in the military or veterans who are really trying to find that bridge of whether you're helping veterans build solar or whether you're creating companies to kind of really bring in new ways to move away from fossil fuels for security. It's a great group. Whether it's creating documentaries on different things too. Yeah, it's a lot of awareness.
That's fantastic. Well, hey, did you see the Oppenheimer movie?
Oh, yeah. Love New Mexico.
What was your opinion of it?
So Oppenheimer, yes, I saw it, and I love New Mexico. Gosh, all the screenshots are beautiful. And I think as humans, we love our storytelling, and it definitely gives a perspective. And I think there was great acting involved and really enjoyed watching it. But I think it brought together a lot of questions about balancing interests and kind of the push and pull of national security and how do you weigh the opportunities and risks? And I think it really does put in perspective the need to really kind of work collaboratively and push back and forth on asking the hard questions. Will this really work? And what else do we need to get there? And I think that's what we've been doing with long duration energy storage is just, we know how important this is. We know that we're not alone, that there are partners around the world who see this as a critical tool for decarbonization and critical asset. And so I think there's some great storylines in there that kind of build upon. But yeah, it was a good movie.
You're probably wondering why I asked you, just because when you said Truman, and I remember the portrayal in the movie, but I mean, he's a lot more than just what was in the movie. And he was...
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, he's one of the great presidents, certainly in the 20th century. But yeah, no, great movie overall. And you're right. I think it raises a lot of questions that are not easy to answer and a lot of obviously moral dilemmas. And it was, anyway, fascinating story. And next thing we'll do is we'll do a podcast on movies, and then we can have you back on.
That would be fun. You can bring in my East LA experience of growing up there.
I didn't realize that was one part of your background I missed. So growing up in LA, that's cool. That's very cool. Well, I think it's been a great discussion, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Like I said, I think we had so many programs that talked about shorter duration, and we have had some different technologies that we've talked about that have been more suited to long duration. So when I came across your background somewhere, and I was like, oh, we have a long duration energy storage council. That's something that I got to learn more about. And then I thought, well, Julia would make a great guest. So I'm really glad that we had you on, and I hope you enjoyed the interview, and I'll let you have the last word and add anything you want to the discussion.
Oh, well, thank you, Bill, so much. It's a great conversation, and I love where you took us and just all the insights that we discussed and that you shared with me too. And last year, we started off kind of on the global conversation. I want to connect it back to that in local communities. The Triple Renewables goal was established COP, the global conference of all the climate negotiators, and for 11 terawatts of renewable energy by 2030. And this year, there's a global push for a global energy storage target, and long duration energy storage is critical to achieving the 11 terawatts of renewable energy. What this means for the United States is that we have a long ways to go. And I think what's great is that we have some mandates, but we need to push a little bit harder. And so looking forward to working with you at Troutman and many others to really kind of promote the need for these mandates and all the regulatory and policy changes that need to take place to make this happen. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity, and look forward to all the future collaborations.
Oh, likewise. Look forward to working with you however we can. And I think we had a great program today. And until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you, Bill.
Copyright Troutman Pepper Hamilton Sanders, LLP. These recorded materials are designed for educational purposes only. This podcast is not legal advice and does not create an attorney-client relationship. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individual participants. Troutman Pepper does not make any representations or warranties, express or implied, regarding the contents of this podcast. Information on previous case results does not guarantee a similar future result. Users of this podcast may save and use the podcast only for personal or other non-commercial educational purposes. No other use, including, without limitation, reproduction, retransmission, or editing of this podcast may be made without the prior written permission of Troutman Pepper. If you have any questions, please contact us at troutman.com.